Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to a mix of r/entitled people, neighbors from hell, and malicious compliance. In today's title story, OP's neighbor Karen demands that OP sprays her entire garden green, and OP then maliciously complies by ruining her entire garden. Without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled, Everything Green? Okay. Sorry for any vague conversations, this happened 10 years ago and some family said I should post it at this point. This story happened about 10ish years ago. Backstory: when I was in high school and still living at home, we were required to do community service in order to graduate. Those who did more than the minimum 10 hours were granted a recommendation from the high school to any college they applied to on their application into university, where they would recommend as a contributor to society. I had been working my own lawn care business, better phrased as a community service, since I was in 9th grade. As it came to my 12th grade year, senior year in high school, all of my neighbors were having their yard mowed and trimmed by me. Come my final year of primary school before university, I was still mowing the lawns of my neighbors free of charge. But I had also become the alternate captain of my primary school's hockey team. Come my final year before university, I was still taking care of yards for my neighbors. Most of them were old enough that they couldn't take care of them without help. Of course, there was always one person who always had extra things for me to do, regardless of what I had to get done after their yard. Theirs was normally the last one, since it was the closest to my home at the time. Let's call her Karen. Initially, it was just small things, like moving their yard furniture so I could mow their whole yard without missing anything, and then the day I was sick of everything. I had mowed 5 yards in 95 Fahrenheit, which is 35 degrees Celsius, after I had completed an hour conditioning session for hockey and an additional conditioning session for lacrosse. Honestly, I was in a bad mood. I had gotten through all of the yards without a hitch because the people I was mowing for knew it was essentially for free. And then it was Karen's turn. I was already going to be late for practice and I knew it. As I started wheeling my mower out of her yard, I hear a, "Where do you think you're going?" So I was a little stunned because I was used to people just randomly running around and yelling at me, and at this point I had completed mowing and was about to put the spray jug of Roundup away since I was done spraying all the weeds in their yard. I responded with, "I'm done, I'm going home." Karen: "You are leaving without completing my yard? There's a lot of green that I'm not approving. I won't sign off until all of the green in the yard has been hit." Cue malicious compliance. I looked at her yard and said, "You want me to hit everything that is green before I leave?" Karen: "I want you to hit anything green before you leave." I think some of you can already see where this is going. As a high schooler who was told to spray anything green, I started spraying everything green. The next day after school, my dad called me into a room. When I walked in, Karen was there scowling. Karen: "You killed all of my yard." Me: "You told me to round up everything green in your yard." My dad: "Is that actually what you told him?" Karen: "Absolutely not." "Okay, what did you say?" "I told him to..." She gets really quiet. She starts to bring up that the yard was not as short as she wanted and then walks away. Dad: "What did you tell him to do?" Karen: "I told him to hit anything green in the yard." I have not seen such a big crap-eating grin on my dad's face since. Dad: "You didn't." Me: "Yep, I did." I ended up spraying Roundup on Karen's entire yard. Anything green, Roundup. Grass, Roundup. Any flower with a green stem, Roundup. Her prized orchids, Roundup. Since I was already going to be late, I didn't just go to the recommended level of concentrate, it was twice as strong as it should have been. Fallout: since I had a whole neighborhood of people who would say I did an amazing job taking care of their yard, when Karen called the cops to report me for property damage, she got a warning for falsifying police reports as well as scolding by the cops to not tell someone to do something if they don't want it executed to the letter. I have since moved back into the same neighborhood as I grew up in and see Karen around. She glares at me every time I see her. Her yard has not recovered. And yeah, ripe stars, I would say that is a very, well, unhealthy dose of malicious compliance when it comes to the yard. But still, in my opinion, this was a very clever way of getting back at this Karen. Have you ever messed with your neighbor's yard for one reason or another? Let us know in the comments about what you did. And while you're at it, I would really appreciate it if you could post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support the channel. Thank you so much in advance. The next one is titled Entitled Neighbor Caught by His Own Police Call. So, a few years back, I, 20 male, had a small 2-room flat in a very old building in which you could hear everything. My bedroom was right next to the wall of my neighbor's 27 male flat. He was a lunatic who played video games until 4 or 5 AM. And he had some kind of problem with losing in multiplayer games, so every time he would lose, he would start screaming, throwing things around and punching the wall, waking me up almost every night. At the time I was doing 2 jobs and needed every second of sleep I could get. I tried talking to him on several occasions, but nothing helped. One time, when I was out for work, I even left my sound system run, a mix of artillery and machine gun barrages, just to show him how annoying this stuff could be. But as entitled people are, it did not do any good. Fast forward about a few months and nothing improved. And I was getting crazy about this. One Saturday night I had a little poker game running in my flat with a few friends and my neighbor was having one of his usual tantrums. Since I had guests and they didn't like that we turned up the music, everybody listened something different, so there was a good mix of death metal, techno, industrial and hardcore. My neighbor was furious at some point and apparently called the police to file a noise complaint. Luckily, when they pulled up, one of my guys saw them driving up as he was out for a quick cigarette. Now comes the fun. We turned the music down before they came up, so when they rang the doorbell and I opened, they could not hear anything too noisy, just a few guys having some beers and a little poker game. They told us that there was a noise complaint from a neighbor saying it was too loud and that this was something constant. We told them we have been like this for hours. Then I had a genius idea. I asked them if my neighbor called them, which of course they couldn't answer, but I knew what was what. So I invited the 2 cops in and told them I would show them what real noise disturbance looked like. I led them to my bedroom where one could still hear my neighbor throwing tantrums, and I told the cops the whole story, and since they were already here, that I would like to file a noise complaint against him. The cops were shocked at the noise you could hear from the other flat and went directly over to his flat to tell him to shut the hell up and that he would get reprimanded by written letter to keep the noise down and don't call the police for false emergencies. I had a huge laugh as the cops came back to tell me to call them when he did something like this again, because in that case I would be able to file charges. So long story short, he thought the police would shut me down, instead it was the other way around. I never slept better than that night and finally I had some peace at home. And I have to say, ripe stars, I'm not even sure if this fits into revenge or malicious compliance, but that was absolutely brilliant. However guys, I am curious, how is it for you? When you are losing in games like video games or board games, do you get angry or not? Personally, I really hate losing, so you could say I'm not a good loser, and I think that is something that did not really change since elementary school. Especially these damn board games like Monopoly are really getting me riled up. Maybe that's why I'm not playing them as much anymore. The next one is titled, She kept stealing my washing powder, so I gave her dye. I don't mind when my roommates borrow my stuff, we have all been there, all I ask is that they replace what they take. You drink my milk? Just buy me a new milk. It is as simple as that. Unfortunately, my roommate does not seem to get this. She keeps taking my stuff, and when I ask her to please replace everything she takes, she will buy one new thing and forget to do it the next time despite having more money than me. I finally snapped when I wanted to wash my clothes but only found an empty box that used to contain my washing powder. I don't buy fancy or expensive stuff and I don't care about brands. After using the last of my powder a week earlier, she could literally have bought the cheapest no-brand powder in the world and I would have been fine. I just snapped. I had told her over and over again to not use my washing powder if she was not going to replace it, and I just had enough. I bought a new box of washing powder, some Dillon machine dye, and mixed it with a bit of the washing powder and dumped it into the old box. When the dye is dry, it looks like washing powder, especially if you are not expecting it. I took my new box of washing powder to my room and waited. A week later, I came home from work and saw her laundry hanging outside, all with a mysterious pink color. She stomped up to me and demanded to know what I had done. I told her I was going to dye my own clothes and someone had told me the shade would be lighter if I mixed it with powder. Lie. Then asked her why she had used it when it had clearly been in a box with my name on it when I had told her not to use it because she never replaced it. I don't think she believed me, but she finally got the message. She almost never takes my stuff now, and when she does, she is quick to replace it. The next one was posted by user Meyerwood91 on our own subreddit r/ripe stories, and it is titled "Make me work your shift, get fired." I had worked on this retail job for a few years and was one of the few original employees who did not quit. A lot of people left because of one of our co-workers called Karen. Even though Karen was just another employee, she was a bitter, entitled lady with a power complex and would constantly try to assert authority over co-workers. I butted heads with Karen a few times and we eventually learned to tolerate each other. So on to the story. Rachel, also in her 20s, was new to the job and pretty cute. Unfortunately, she knew she was pretty cute and tried to flirt with the younger guys and convince them to take shifts she did not want to work, or do aspects of the job she didn't enjoy. I worked a few shifts with Rachel and caught on pretty quick. I was friendly, but did not return any of the flirty vibes. I didn't know it at the time, but about 4 months into the job, Rachel decided she wanted a change of pace and got a job with a different store, same complex, but did not quit as she wanted to save money for a trip and planned to quit when she had plane tickets in hand. She has not told our manager, Tiffany, and was not planning to give any notice, but also was happy to share this knowledge with the guys in the workplace. The setup: I was stressing over exams, closing Saturday and opening Sunday. On Saturday night, Rachel dropped by in her uniform from the other retail job. She wanted to ask me to cover her closing shift tomorrow, but did not plan to swap with my morning shift, so I would be working 5 AM to 12 PM. While the paycheck would be nice, I had an exam on Monday and wanted time to study and rest. I told Rachel that I would be happy to switch, but not to simply cover, and she left. The next morning when I showed up at work, Tiffany pulled me aside and let me know that Rachel had called in sick, that we had no coverage and that I would need to fill in and work the closing shift. I said I couldn't and Tiffany informed me that I would be written up if I wouldn't be a team player. Karen was also on the clock and I knew that she and Rachel didn't like each other and a plan was forming in my head. I told Karen that there was a great sale going on in the shop where I knew Rachel worked. I didn't know if Rachel was working or not, but I had a hunch. Karen took off on her break and went to the store to check out the sale. As luck would have it, Rachel was behind the counter helping customers. Karen booked it back to our workplace to snitch on Rachel. Tiffany called up Rachel with Karen in the room and told her to come in for her shift or be fired, because they know she is not sick. Rachel came in for her shift and confided in me that she was tired and really wanted someone to take her closing shift because she has just opened for her other job. Karen interrupted to call her out for skirting her duties to the job, and they got in a fight just as the store manager, Tiffany's boss, walked by. I heard later that Rachel was fired after her shift ended, and management separated Karen and Tiffany to help remove some of the toxicity in the work environment. Am I the a-hole here? And guys, please let us know in the comments what you think, whether our lovely author from r/ripe stories is the a-hole in this situation or not. block my driveway, I will go ahead and take your vehicles. Friday night here in the country can get a little crazy sometimes, so I don't mind when my neighbors cause a ruckus or loud party as long as it is not too crazy. Tonight I'm on call for Virginia State Police towing rotation, which means I've got 25 minutes to get to wherever the wreck/DUI/impound/etc. is. As luck would have it, my neighbors are having a party, and guess what is blocking my driveway? That is right, about 25 to 30 cars. I live down a dirt road at the end of a cul-de-sac and it is pretty narrow. One in, one out type of deal, and with this rain we've been having, parking in the grass/clay and mud is really not the best idea. Even with a 4x4 it can still get tricky. I noticed a few cars coming in early this evening and walked over to my neighbors and made it pretty clear I was on call, and as long as they didn't block the road or my driveway, all would be good. No problems here. Well, I get a call from my boss asking if I can go warm up the rotator and the light-duty flatbed, tow trucks. It is about 12:30 AM, so I get my boots on and other gear, because if I'm up I might as well stay at the shop and clean a few things to stay busy and make the night move along. I get in my car, and as I am backing out of the driveway, I notice I am blocked in. I don't mean by one truck, but by nearly 15 different vehicles. I calmly walk over to my neighbors, which is a little hike, and as I am looking for them through the crowd of drunk teenagers, some idiot wants to know why I am on his property. He's not the property owner. I've never seen this classy gentleman before. Finally, I find my neighbor and ask her if she can move the cars. I've got to go to work, she says in a normal tone, doesn't yell over the music, into the house. Whoever is blocking the driveway next door, move your trucks, and then slams the door in my face. I knock again and she answers with a drunken, "Oh god, this stupid woman again." Internally I'm thinking, alright then, I do my best to explain I'm on call and need to get out of my driveway to go to work. She comes back sloshing a natural light, exclaiming it's a party, relax, shuts the door in my face and yells, "Screw that stupid woman." I smile, and as I am walking away, Macho Man throws a beer at me and cackles, "Yeah, you best leave, go on git." I get on the phone with dispatch and call for as many trucks as we have available tonight, about 10, and tell them to come on over. Mama's got some PPIs, private property impounds. I call police dispatch and ask if they had sent out an officer in case things get out of hand. And as soon as he gets to my place, my rigs start rolling up and hooking vehicles up and taking them to the impound yard. We get down to the last 3 vehicles, a yellow Civic, gold Silverado and an old F-150. The Civic owner bolts to his car and takes off. The Silverado girl, pretty wasted, gets stuck and starts tearing up my property. Officer walks over and she throws a fit. Long story short, she gets arrested for underage drinking and DUI. The Ford owner doesn't show up. I get to work after all the impounds, and with me I brought coffee and snacks for my drivers. Tomorrow, not a business day, which means if these tools want their cars back, it is going to be the regular $289.50 plus 2 days of storage at $55 a day and a $100 gate fee. I make a note in every single storage sheet, papers that the vehicle owners get, to thank the girl who had the party for getting towed. Several of the kids' parents called wanting to know where their cars or trucks were. I gave them the yard address and told them they can come anytime. As soon as they started shouting about illegal tows and threatened with lawyers, I showed them pictures of their cars with no parking signs. And explained that I tried to reason with the owner of the property, me, but she was tired of being blocked in by drunken teenagers. There are signs on my road saying no parking and not to block the driveway. Don't piss off a tow truck driver, she will legally take your vehicles. And the next one is titled, "My driveway's messy, yours will never be the same, and you walk away and your utilities and your foundation, well, you will see." We used to live in a newly upscale hill community. Apparently old hippies get possessive when they find that their hillside shack is suddenly worth 20 times what they paid. It was usually enough to fund a comfortable retirement through reverse mortgages and the like. From the first day we moved in, our older downslope neighbor was really pissy about the state of our walkways.
Get that resurfaced. Those cracks are going to erode and shower dirt down onto my driveway, and put in a proper concrete walkway, not those cheap paving stones.
I tried to be polite, but he was just full of orders on how we should make his life better, easier and prettier. His comments about our taste, our lack of compliance and other
kids these days
rants were not ever about his own place, only criticizing ours. It was unending. Including too many plants, too many invasive plants, too many poisonous plants, somehow they all were poisonous, too much mulch, too many repairs, too much new paint, what good will swirling the yard do, not enough expensive concrete, not enough herbicides, pesticides, whatever other nasty sprays he likes to kill things with. The space between our property and his was our paving stone walkway on dirt, a 2 feet wood retaining wall and then his poured walkway. His yard was mowed, sprayed and beaten into concession, all bare dirt, nothing planted to hold soil. It had been so long since his soil was protected that there were visible erosion runnels. No wonder he was worried about erosion, he was building new rivers across his property. In a few years he had escalated to threatening to call the authorities on us. We had code enforcement out twice in a month for wasting water until they refused to make any more special trips. He kept calling different city departments to check up on our plans or report us for anything possible. Twice we got a permit for small repairs. He called every day to try to get us in trouble. He even lied about an unpermitted pool to the authorities, who got there and just sighed, toured the unexcavated backyard yet again and left. He was always yelling about something out a window every time he saw us. It got so bad that I had to sneak out to the garden. So when the market got markedly better, we put the house on the market. It sold just at the beginning of our rainy season. 2 days before we moved, I left him 2 going away presents. Number 1, I bought dried blackberries and mixed them with birdseed and then I cast it across his backyard. For 2 days, blackberries will find a way to grow even in the worst, most oversprayed, sterile soil. As birds eat, they poop, so in a few hours the birds were depositing loads of blackberries and nutrient-rich guano everywhere on his property. Now we had mulched down between established plants, so no new plants on our side, but awful neighbor quickly had a bramble patch. Some of those thorn canes can get bigger than your thumb and underground crowns bigger than your fist. Number 2, running bamboo will wedge into every crack available, buckling walkways and growing underground in surprising directions. It created a delightful privacy fence the new owners loved and did not bother our solid foundation or paving stones at all. When it popped up in his yard, it had spread 7 feet out into his territory and busted up every one of his walkways. I don't think his foundation was very solid. He was apparently complaining that he found bamboo growing inside his basement for years afterwards. I'm just glad I got the opportunity to help my neighbor with his erosion problem. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.